perhaps with the church and maybe with Beta, like a cultural adjustment to the city sort of thing. This is in like really early days sort of, but I was thinking we've got to get them from that point to this point where we have them on the gap year internship, and it might just be that it's a process of even then linking in with church, because I want to do it in partnership with my church. I haven't spoken to the pastor yet, but this is early days, so I want to link them in with the church, and then maybe there may come a time when they're either already Christians or they might already be becoming a Christian. Link them in with that, and then hopefully that will be a sort of middle ground for maybe linking in with students to come on to the gap year internship. I'm not quite sure how it's going to work, but like with Freshers Week, maybe we can contact the wellbeing departments of the university and say, if you've got any international students, we're going to have this day where we're going to do. So it's things like they can ask questions about anything to do with the culture of the UK, how they get around with buses and trains, and how they access, how they pay their bills. It could be anything, but also gives them a bit of an idea about the culture of England that helps them to become a bit more familiar. But then perhaps just a little bit about the church at the end, or welcome back or something, so they can know they can come into the church.
Yeah. So what's your next step in this?
So I'm going to be speaking, well, James doesn't know this, my pastor, but I will speak to him at some point and just ask him if that's something that he wants to get involved with. But knowing him, and him being an evangelist, I think it will be a yes. Because we already have some activities for students. So on a Friday night, we started an evangelistic group which I get involved with, which is called the Board Game Cafe. So if you just come in, we can just have drinks and what have you, and then there's just stacks and stacks of board games they can play. So it's like a social setting.
That'd be good.
So it's possible that they can also link in with that.
So anything else God to put on your heart?
Not at this time. I'm still seeking God for lots of different things, but not necessarily hearing anything else at the moment. But
what things are you seeking God for? Sorry,
please do.
So we're seeking God for, like, the base and whereabouts we should be, and how that will work, and also like the gap year interns. This is it's like, come on, God, and I keep asking him, is there something that I'm missing? Because this has been 2 years in the process of praying for gap year interns, and it's like, so is there something that I'm missing? And last Sunday we had a preach at my church about the wells in Genesis 26. The Femi's preached on this, I don't know if you remember, Shirley, about the wells being stopped up and how but the pastor was basically saying about we each need to find our well, the anointing sort of thing, and I'm like, okay, so am I missing something about the gap year internship? Does it look a bit different to how we perhaps had it in the Rock House? Should it be a different approach? I don't know. So I'm just seeking God for. She's smiling. Something's going on there.
It's always a good way to go back to God, isn't it? When you don't know which way to go, is to go back to Him to seek the direction again.
So I'm just questioning: is there more to this that I'm missing that? Looks a bit different.
And one more is, what would you say to someone who is thinking about leaving the life they're living, like you left your life in Hereford with your job and everything like that, to follow the call of God? What would you say to them?
Oh, I wrote something down about this because I thought I need to think about this one. I forgot to mention that, that's okay.
What was it you forgot to mention? It could be something we'd like to hear.
I said I think I'm realising more and more my heart for the poor and undervalued in society. Because I'm involved a lot through church and the Women's Centre, Topslith Women's Centre, with the poor and undervalued. And although it's a calling for Beta Bab, I feel that anointing more and more.
That's really good.
And I forgot to mention about the word for Jubilee Drive. So Shirley had a word, can't remember when, was it June, July, something like that. And we were driving along Kensington.
Last prayer. I was praying
Okay, and she had a word that there's something for me on Jubilee Drive. Well, that's for City Churches, my church. But also, the Crossing Point that I've got involved in had no office at City Church. So Crossing Point is a ministry that help women with domestic abuse and doing awareness days for the church and schools and stuff. Now, this is just my personal ministry. This is nothing to do with Beats About, but this is something I'm starting to get a little bit tentatively involved a little bit, but I can't get involved because of my responsibilities with Beats About. But it's interesting that not only it was the church there, but the Crossing Point was an office in the church. So there was like two things from Jubilee.
a link. And you went like that, so it's obviously God's put it on your heart.
Oh yes, very much. Because I've always wanted to do something where my experiences will benefit other people. And so, next week I'm doing a training day from Birkenhead, and I'm going to be interviewed again next Saturday.
So it's a good practice. So really God has opened so many doors for you here, hasn't it?
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And in answer to your question about
what would you
I
say?
wrote, it will probably be nothing like you expect. You will be stretched beyond your imagination, but despite all that, it's so worth it. And I've got a quote. Can you pass my phone? I wrote something in my journal, which I discovered. And let's see if I can find it. Wednesday, the 27th of July. Alan Maiden sent me a quote from Oswald Chambers today, and it was so good. One of the greatest strains in life is the strain of waiting for God. God takes the saints, couldn't read my writing, God takes the saints like a bow, which he stretches, and at a certain point, the saint says, I can't stand anymore. But God does not heed. He goes on stretching because he is aiming at his mark, not ours. And the patience of the saints is that they hang in until God lets the arrow fly.
Wow.
That really sums up this whole process. No, it's too much. I can't stand anymore, Lord. I don't care, because it's about you. It's not about you. It's about what I want to do in you, basically.
Yeah.
So thank you for sending that to me, Alan, because it really spoke to me at the time.
Oh, that's brilliant.
So stretching beyond what you think you can't bear, and then just keep standing in there, and God does do the final work and lets the arrow go.
And what's helped you to stand so strong?
People around me, like Shirley, who have said, just it's okay, just take your time, it'll be fine. We believe that God is doing something in this process. Okay, I trust in you, but this is so hard. So many times. It was a painful process, so painful.
Thank you. It's been really great hearing all the different things you've been talking about. But do you mind if I just ask if anybody else has a question from what we've been saying, if they wanted to ask anything? Do you mind if I just...
What's your hardest struggle? What's the thing you find hard to do?
In my present situation?
Just sort of like generally, what do you find hard to do about God, and what's the hardest thing for you?
I sometimes find it hard to hear the voice of God, and I find it so hard to get a vision from God. Like Shirley is such a visionary, and it's just great, but I find that so hard. And I think part of it is that whole part of my life was shut down for so many years. I couldn't dream, I couldn't have a vision, I couldn't have hope. And so now it's like trying to, when like the ashes go out in the fire, you're trying to get it to go. It feels a bit like that. It feels a bit like, come on, why can't I see this? Why can't I get this vision? And so it's so hard, because I'm just like, I just don't hear it.
Do you think that God's speaking to you in a different way, maybe, that maybe that will come one day, or maybe he's just speaking to you in a different way?
I'm just trusting that if he's put me in this position, that at some point the anointing will come, and that at some point, if I keep pressing into him, I will hear him in a different way, or I will start I don't know. I just have to trust that, because I didn't want this. This was another setup by God. You know,
Yeah.
I was going to be in Thailand, thank you very much, not Liverpool. But I'm actually very pleased because I feel very at home here. But, you know, this being a national director was never what I wanted.
Yeah.
And I hate giving out my cards with this national director thing on it, because then people label you as something. You're like, no, I'm just Esther. But it's just a process, isn't it?
Yeah. Has anybody got anything? Sorry, I just went ahead.
No, you can ask away. I don't mind at all.
Thank you. And Jenny, have you got anything you'd like to ask?
No, the only question I have is a practical one, so I'll wait till after.
Well, I just think it's been lovely to hear of your journey, and we're looking forward to hearing more. How from this point God is going to move you on, and I think we're just going to have to make sure that we're going to ask you again to see where He's taking you. That this is like the mark in the sand or the stone.